Today we're going to begin to answer the question, are these cult favorite, cult classic makeup products actually worth the hype? And in the case of a product that has been popular and maybe become repopularized by virality on TikTok or whatever, in terms of being like quote unquote worth it, I think that really it comes down to like a binary, right? It's either still amazing or it was amazing in its time period, but it's since been kind of surpassed by other things. None of these is a bad product. Things don't become popular because they're bad. And so it's just a really fun mental exercise for me to get to try out a lot of these products, think of them in the context of like, why have these had this staying power for so long? And as I test them and share them with y'all today, we will also talk about, whether I think that they still stand up against the current market or whether they've kind of been surpassed by other things. I hope to make this a series on my channel, especially because it really helps me talk with y'all about products that aren't new, which I know is something y'all have been really curious about. So before we get into the video, I want to talk to y'all about today's sponsor. I am so excited, as always, to be talking to y'all about my favorite jewelry company, Ana Luisa. It is about to be Black Friday. The Black Friday sale for Ana Luisa starts on the 24th of November. Aside from the things that I always say that I love about Ana Luisa, which are that they are beautiful, affordable, sustainable. They only use recycled gold for their jewelry, but aside from their gold-plated jewelry, they also have solid gold, sterling silver, and diamonds on site now, and they're always coming out with new styles. The thing that I love about Ana Luisa is that they make such a fantastic gift, and at the price point, they start at around $39, $40, that's before the discount, you are able to gift someone kind of a look, right? You're able to kind of pick out a personalized stack or maybe a matching set of something on their website for someone that's gonna make for a really impressive gift that somebody's going to get a lot of use out of right away. But also, hey, you know what? There's always something to be said for gifting yourself. So let's talk about the new ones that I've got on today. I've got more than just the new ones on today, okay? Ana Luisa is like the backbone of my jewelry collection, but let's talk about the earring situation here. Now I have, a bunch that have been installed by piercers, like they're all labrays on the back, but I love when I can have like a really beautiful everyday but like still statement earring that fits underneath my plugs so beautifully. Look at these things. Aren't they cool? It's like they were made for me. They're like the perfect width of my earlobe, and so they go perfectly underneath my plugs. But I mean, obviously they're going to look incredible on anybody. They're not super heavy, but they are really substantial. I just find that the way that they hang, I could wear those every day, and I could also wear them to like a holiday party or an event or something like that. They're extremely elegant. But again, like they're not in my way. And then how beautifully do they pair with those little guys? Can we see those? They're like these itty bitty little pave huggies. They're gorgeous. I've been really into pave lately. I wasn't always like a rhinestone girl, but like there's something about it. I've just found that it kind of adds this little touch of sparkle and like makes my outfit look a little bit more sophisticated. So then I actually have two necklaces on here and I will link both of them, but I want to talk about this really beautiful chain. I think that Ana Luisa does some of the most beautiful chains. I really like this one because, yes, it's adjustable, but I love a collar length necklace because I wear a lot of button downs. You probably noticed on my channel. I like for things to like show up here, and I love to be able to kind of stack things at that level. And this just has the most unique little pattern to the chain that again, it makes it feel like it has like a trendy shape to it, but it's not super honking heavy. So I feel like it layers really beautifully with other things, but you can still really see it from a distance. I have been really into their kind of like collar length chains lately. So yeah, the Black Friday sale is going to be among their best sales all year. You're gonna be able to get really fantastic deals on pretty much everything on site. You can check out Ana Luisa using my link down below. I highly recommend shopping them for your holiday gifting this year. And thank you, as always, to Ana Luisa for sponsoring a portion of today's video. And now we're going to go to me barefaced, and you will get to watch this look come together, and we will talk about how I feel about these cult classic, cult favorite products. All right, y'all, there are so many products to get through in this video. I want to go ahead and zoom through my complexion products, my foundation and my concealer, just because I feel like those are the most personal kinds of recommendations. There are so many cult favorite foundations and concealers out there, but I feel like my recommendation is always going to be super conditional based on my skin type or your skin type or what have you. So I'm just gonna tell y'all that these two do get my stamp of approval. So we're gonna start with the Chanel Le Beige Healthy Glow Foundation. I wear this in the shade B10. It's a product I know has been around for a while, at least since 2016. I think that they reformulated it at one point, but whatever version I have, I absolutely adore. I think that Chanel does a really, really fantastic job with their foundations. And even as I've tried tons of other foundations, this one has always stood out as a winner. And then I'm gonna go in with my Prisme Libre skincare and concealer from Givenchy. It's kind of like how Tarte Shape Tape is considered a cult classic. I think this is an even better version of Shape Tape. I find it to just be better as we start to show signs of aging. It's very hydrating. I of course recommend this. I wear it all the time. I wear the shade N95. Okay, that gets us started off on the right foot. I wanted to make sure that like the complexion at least was something reliable. I love the coverage level of the Chanel foundation. I think that they combine really beautifully together, so it's just a nice jumping off point. Okay, so our first true test here, right? This is an absolute cult classic to the point that it has been duped by everybody and their dog. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand. This is the new shade range version of it, but I do believe it's always been the same formula since it first came out in 2017. But she wiped the kind of 2 or 3 tone shade range that she had before, and now we have like a, you know, full skin tone shade range. So the idea of this, of course, is, you know, the viral appearance, right, is that you have the sponge tip on here and you should be able to dot, 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 you know, everywhere that you would want to contour and then blend it in with your tool of choice. So let's do that. Now, other things have come out in this format also. She did the Matte Beauty Blush Wand, which I don't really know if it got as much traction as these did, but my God, they deserve it. That is a fantastic product, especially in the sense of applying something in this manner, and it doesn't always work, you know? It doesn't always blend perfectly into the skin. Hello? We'll find out. We'll find out, right? We'll find out if I got it even. But those are so excellent. They just do all of the work for you. This one, I will say, the new shade range makes it a heck of a lot easier to use. Okay, like that is really gorgeous. It can sometimes look a little bit muddy just because it's such a thin formula, but I do find it to be really easy. I think that that's kind of the whole point. It's not just easy, it is also a lot of visual impact really quickly. I think that that's the appeal of it. We all want to feel sexy when we put on our contour, right? I think the other appeal of all of Charlotte's kind of, you know, designed to be contour type products is that they're not particularly cool toned, which makes them very approachable to people who might not be super confident contouring right off the bat, because it's like, oh hey, it's not gonna leave like a big gray stripe on your skin, and it is going to, if you fudge it, you know what I mean, it's still just gonna look like bronzer. Now, did I put on too much? It's possible. You might, Rabbit, you might. But I am looking pretty snatched, okay? Like I said, it starts to get kind of muddy looking. It can kind of start to make me look like, you know, the High Sparrow in Game of Thrones, but it's all very like remediable, and I do feel like this just kind of goes along with a like a sun-kissed aesthetic that just remains in style, right? Everybody wants to look healthy, and I do feel like when used properly, this makes your skin look really healthy. And again, now that she has more shades in it, it's more user-friendly for more people. It's not my absolute favorite product in the world. I prefer a cream. I prefer something that has a little more dimension to it. Like it is just such kind of a flat color that I do feel like it ends up looking a little hollow again and a little like dusty muddy on my skin, but I do understand the appeal of it. It's just not my favorite, you know? I feel like there are just things that look more natural than that. I'm not always going for looking that snatched, and I do feel like it's pretty easy to get carried away with it. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have the Merit Bronzer. So this is in clay. I went ahead and got clay the last time that they offered gifting because I had quince and it was like too light and pretty orange. This one is pretty like olive skin friendly, I feel like. It goes on just a little bit noticeably green on me. And I'm hoping that today that means that it can stand up to the Charlotte Tilbury wand. The thing about this that again makes it really appealing for people is that it's actually really sheer and it's quite dewy, much like what has come to be known, right, as the Merit aesthetic, is just this kind of like low coverage, lots of really beautiful texture on the skin sort of thing. And I would say it definitely does that. It's kind of like the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Skin Enhancer in the sense that if you really want visual impact, I do recommend kind of like going a shade deeper than you think, because this is extremely low-key, like extremely natural looking. But I'm hoping that the darker shade will stand up, like I said, to that contour wand. I think that's really nice. I think that really brings it together. I think it's because also it's almost like I accidentally am filling the color. If you're unfamiliar with like my filling techniques, when I talk about something being hollow, like that contour is pretty hollow. It's sort of a high contrast shade against my skin, and then it's sort of missing the midtones that would make it look more natural, and this sort of fills in some midtones. I'm not claiming that that looks natural, but it does look a little bit more even. It doesn't look as muddy. Is this a winner for me? Do I think that this product is necessarily worth it? It really matters whether you're okay having this much dew on your skin. And I mean, I think that when you're, you know, just approaching the whole Merit brand, that kind of goes without saying. The appearance of these products is very, very dewy, but I don't totally love how it seems to like leave my skin kind of wet. I feel like the blushes don't do that as much, and like the bronzer kind of is like twice as emollient even as the blushes, and it makes my skin feel a little bit wet, and I feel like it kind of will start to break my makeup if I'm not careful. It's definitely for like a low-key bare face of makeup. I don't necessarily think that like it's as applicable to a lot of different looks as the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Skin Enhancer. I would still go for the Makeup by Mario, but it is quite nice, and I understand its appeal. I think that it's very user-friendly, very beginner-friendly, and that's why people like it so much. Another bronzer that I think is worth mentioning, that's probably the most cult favorite bronzer, like when I search for any of them, or even when I just kind of rack my own memory, is this right here. So, you know, in the Chanel vein of Le Beige, this is the Chanel Le Beige Healthy Glow Bronzing Cream. Now, this was very notoriously reformulated. It's gotta be like 10 years ago at this point, and they just kind of never renegotiated on it. I'm not gonna use this because mine's super expired, but also the reformulation is widely, well, I was gonna say panned, but panned means something else in this industry. No one liked it, okay? Everybody really insists that the older version of this formula was just to die for, and they don't appreciate the bait and switch. And I have to agree, this is the third one that I have owned because they only had a couple of shades. I bought 2 shades initially to see which one would work. Neither of them really worked. Then they came out with another couple of shades, and I bought another one thinking that the shade was going to be the thing that mattered, and it still didn't matter. It's still just like not a great product anymore. And there are so many great products in this format that I do really like. I like the Say one, I like the NARS one, except that it smells like coconut. I like the Vive one, it's just my shade's a little bit green. But there are a lot of really beautiful, oh my gosh, the Fenty cream blush, I wear but a biscuit. And I mean, there's just so many things like this that exist now that are just better formats of this product. It has been surpassed. I'm gonna let that kind of cook on my cheeks and hopefully end up, I don't know, soaking in a little bit, because I do want to go in with powder blush. Probably a miscalculation on my part, but I think that we can do it. I think we have the right attitude. But yeah, I figure maybe we should start in on eyes while I see if this dies down a little bit, and if it doesn't, we'll just kind of blot it or powder it before I put on some blush. So the eye product eyeshadow category is something that I feel like holds a lot of cult favorites. When I search for these kinds of things again, or search my memory for these kinds of things, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's like so classic it kind of makes me flatline, like a Naked palette or something. And I did buy the new Naked palettes, and I gotta say, like, don't do it. They're really boring and like very underwhelming. I don't feel like the shades make a lot of sense. I don't feel like the formulas are, I don't know, I'm underwhelmed. So I wanted to talk about some that especially people ask me about a lot, and that is the Bobbi Brown and Laura Mercier eyeshadow sticks. So the Bobbi Brown ones are called just the Longwear Cream Shadow Stick, and the Laura Mercier ones are famously called the Caviar Stick. I have a lot of shimmers in the Laura Mercier ones, and I have mostly mattes in the Bobbi Brown ones. I don't know why that is. And so we're going to be using mostly Bobbi Brown today, but I do find that like the formulas, the performance, everything about them with the exception of like if you have a really specific color that you like, they're pretty interchangeable. I don't think that I would know the difference between them if you blindfolded me. And that kind of goes for like most eyeshadow sticks, okay? Like most eyeshadow sticks, prestige level, price-wise, whatever, and even the Sephora collection ones, again, blindfolded, I'm not sure that I would know the difference. And so I have here some of the kind of like classic ones, and then I also recently bought the Bobbi Brown like dual-ended one here. So this is Milk Chocolate and Midnight Brown. So yeah, I mean, all of these are Bobbi Brown except for this one right here. This is a rose gold from Laura Mercier. And I will say that I don't love the shimmers in these formulas as much as I love the mattes. We're going to be going in with mattes today. So it's like, just understand that as far as like classic cult favorite things, I do think that like the shimmer sticks are kind of like up to your evaluation as to whether you think that's enough shimmer for you. I find that they kind of fade on contact or fade when you're blending them. They sort of go a little bit sooty gray. They mix with your complexion product in a way that I don't totally love, and they don't have as much staying power as the matte formulas do. Some of the more recent ones that I have used from Bobbi Brown, the lighter colors of shimmers, have been more tenacious on the skin and have had more visual impact, but that hasn't always been the case. So I don't necessarily put my like full-throated endorsement behind the shimmers. If you want a shimmer eyeshadow stick, go for Ilia. They're awesome. I'm gonna start in with taupe kind of all over from Bobbi Brown, and then I'll go in the crease, I think probably with the Midnight Brown. So you can see they already started drying down. That's the beauty of an eyeshadow stick, is that you get so much wear time out of them. I'm not gonna say that they're like never going to crease on anyone, but they are among the more tenacious formulas, and that's why they continue to be such like crowd-pleasing favorites, cult classics, whatever. And also, there's just something to be said for quickness and ease, right? I love when something just blends that easily. Again, this is the shade Taupe, and I mean, that's just like an instant eye look right there. They give you a good amount of time, especially on top of a complexion product. But again, I think that this is a cult favorite product just in the sense that this is a product type that they pioneered. They brought it onto the market, and then it became something that was, you know, imminently dupable by a bunch of different brands. They all did a fantastic job of it, and most of them out there are very good. These just happen to be kind of, I consider them to be sort of the originals. I think that they're great for what they do, and they probably for that reason have among the largest shade ranges, like the largest selection for you. So they're also incredibly readily available, and they go on sale a lot. So there's Taupe. Easy squeezy, that's so pretty, isn't it? All right, let's go in with our Midnight Brown here. Another thing that you can do is just kind of take it off of the crayon itself with a brush, and then you don't have to like worry so much about, you know, I'm putting down too much product or whatever, and it just blends really, really easily. For this, I like to use a synthetic brush. I like a synthetic brush that has a little bit more of like a, you know, paintbrush shape, like it's a little bit flat. It's not completely like rounded on the end, just because I feel like you need a little bit of muscle to push it around. But I like a synthetic brush for this because it doesn't soak the product up. It just sort of like, again, pushes it around. It needs a little bit of insistence, especially as you layer them. And for me, it's like I'm always just building a sort of exaggerated outer shadow. This really, like I said, it gives you a lot of play, and it doesn't all just like wipe off, which is nice. Like as you start to blend it, it doesn't just blend away. I love that. It's super easy, and it's a fantastic base for other things, which is good because we're gonna be putting on all other things. I have here a couple of cult classics. One you see a lot, and one you don't see that often at all on my channel. So the one that you don't see all that often is like a MAC eyeshadow, okay? And this is just something where I don't know if they've really made a big enough deal out of like new shades coming out in their eyeshadows or anything recently. They do tend to discontinue them, and so it's kind of hard to like get your favorites and then have to try and hunt them down again. But this is Sweet Heat. This is one that's like been around for so long, and it's such like a long time favorite for good reason. Hello? Can you see it? There it is. It's just this beautiful, like easy to wear kind of iridescent, you know, soft beigey pink. And the thing about these shadows is, and I'm putting this on with a Rephr 27, like don't sleep on a Rephr brush for, like, honestly, for just making an eyeshadow look extremely fast. It's just crazy to me. Look at that. Look how much it picks up. It's such a difference between that and a synthetic brush, and this Rephr brush right here. It's so fluffy you'd think, oh, that's huge, that's gonna just make a mess. It doesn't. It really concentrates the product, but it like also diffuses it. Concentrates and diffuses. But like, look how easy that was. I wasn't spending all day on that, and I'm just barely touching it. And the product, it just picks it up so much more easily. So yeah, Sweet Heat to me is something that's like really foolproof. You know, it just has a really nice pinkiness to it that I feel like blends into your skin tone. It's going to be shimmery on deep skin tones, like, you know, more glowy. But on someone like me with really fair skin, it's almost the color of my skin. It's just pinker. And then I can take it on a Rephr 13 here, little guy, and it's light enough that it still works as like an inner corner shimmer for me, and then I can layer something on top of it, but I also want it like underneath my eyes. It's a great kind of like moody blending shade on me. And these are drier than most companies are making eyeshadows anymore, but they blend so beautifully. I feel like they're not as much of kind of like a, what we accept as a pleasure to use anymore. You know, we're so used to, especially something shimmery, feeling like very velvety and creamy to the touch. And it has a little bit of that, but I think that most people would be like, huh, you know, that's not what I'm used to. That's not what I'm used to working with. There's something about them that just sells me. They're really, really gorgeous. And again, it's like one of those things where I just don't think about them that often. A, because they're not right in front of my face, and B, because I don't feel like they make that big of a deal out of like new eyeshadow shade releases. But they're gonna be in Sephora soon, which is gonna put them front and center, and my attention is going to be on them a lot more, and I'm really excited about that. All right, the other cult favorite that it's like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Y'all, these are expensive, and I know everyone's annoyed about it, but I have to tell you that the Scattered Light from Hourglass, especially here in the shade Ray, for me, these are 1000% worth it. I don't know, there's just nothing like them. I think that they're like one of the most unique formulas on the market. So Ray happens to be this really beautiful kind of pinky brown, and they are the just like iconic spangly shadow texture that like reflects light in the most unique and beautiful way without being arts and craftsy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they aren't that, you know? They do have an elegance to them that I feel like all of the shades, you know, everyone's got a favorite in and amongst these shades. I have Smoke, I have Blaze, I have Ray, I have Aura. I have almost all of them because, and I've bought all of them because I just think the absolute world of them. People are always having me compare them to other things in like this or that videos and stuff like that, for good reason, because they're just kind of this like marker in people's heads. Like, okay, like how does it compare to this thing that I think of as the best shimmer eyeshadow? And there's a reason for that. They're just really, really iconic. And I think that Hourglass, especially with their powders, we'll get to that in a second, I think that they are like the ultimate cult, classic cult favorite powder formula in most of the things that they do. They just are incredibly flattering, super user-friendly, very, very easy for a lot of different like skin types and skin ages to wear. I mean, in the spirit of cult classics, I can fill in the gaps here with a Naked palette. So this is the newer Urban Decay Naked Shaped palette, but I think that the formulas are the same. The only difference here is that you have cream shades in the middle. I tried it, it doesn't work. I'm not really sure why Urban Decay cannot just kind of like keep their eye on the ball. Why they have to keep just making it weird. Listen, I get in my own head creatively all the time, and I end up kind of like missing very obvious answers to things, like very obvious like video concepts and stuff like that. And you know, sometimes it just takes you having a friend, like I have Rebecca, to like shake me loose. I'm like, what is like the thing that people want me to do right now? She always has like 5 answers, and I'm like, oh yeah, because I overthink it. I think Urban Decay is just overthinking everything right now, and I kind of feel for them. So yeah, I mean, this is like not a pleasure, but I'm gonna just kind of use it to, again, fill in the gaps here with some mattes. This, I'm working with the Rephr Shoto 00, and it's kind of like flat and fluffy, which I think is really awesome. Again, it's like for impatient people. I love a natural bristle brush, and I think Rephr is, well, I mean, Rephr are the only natural bristle brushes I think I've tried other than like Wayne Gosses. But yeah, I do. I think the world of these. They're just fantastic. especially for the price, but just fantastic in general. I just want a little more in the crease. So I'm gonna take something a little dark and just work it in. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there are products that sometimes are cult classics, but then they sort of surpass their use case, or like the time-wise, they age out of their use case because just other things surpass them, and that is a killer eye look though. That looks really pretty. I think that Urban Decay's Naked palettes are kind of that. And I think that if they just kept putting out normal Naked palettes, people would buy them. You don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. You know, people love those things and people love a basic palette. Yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna make a whole video about that. But I should also demonstrate things that I don't totally think the world of, right? Now, something else here that I think is worth showing, that even though I picked that up on a brush, I think that, like, if I can get my hand in here, yeah. A scattered light with the finger is kind of where it's at. Like, you can just get so much beautiful payoff with that. Yeah, and it just makes you look like a goddess. And they do a really good job layering too. Like, for something that's this kind of many textures all at once, it's quite good at sticking. Okay, I wonder, ooh, no, God, that bronzer's tacky. Okay, what are we gonna do about that? I'm just gonna tap it with like the back end of my sponge here. Get some of the like dew off of there, because I'm gonna put powder on top of that. I don't think that's gonna go real well. We're gonna have a pretty gummy situation. Yeah, so that Merit bronzer, again, not my #1 recommendation. I do feel like the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Skin Enhancer soaks in and integrates better than that with more different types of products. I feel like the Merit is kind of like, this is how it's gonna be. It like walks in the room, it's like, I am changing the temperature, I'm changing the tone, everyone needs to follow suit or get out. Sorry to anthropomorphize that bronzer if you absolutely love it. So here we have, and you know, these are all, like, they discontinue them every 5 minutes. No, you cannot get this one, but you can get an Hourglass palette. You know what I, like, there are just so many and they're constantly coming out. I don't think that you need to buy a new one every year kind of thing. So I have here the Ambient Lighting Edit Unlocked in Leopard from last year? 2 years ago? I don't remember. I think this one might be 2 years ago. I don't remember, but I love these shades, and this is one that, like, I mean, my mom's not watching this. I bought her the lightest edit and I put it in the Fox tin for Christmas for her because she just fell head over heels in love with this, and my mother is the toughest customer ever when it comes to makeup. She is 68 years old and like she hasn't had a facelift, okay? And then she also has just a super low contrast complexion as a result of going gray, and so it's like everything shows up really exaggerated on her and it has to be subtle, 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 subtle. And I think that that is the true advantage of an Hourglass palette, is that, you know, there are different shade depths, thank God now, for different skin tones, but within your skin tone, there are always going to be these colors that just like build really slowly and are beautifully subtle. And I just love that, like, I don't really have to think about it. So my eyes right now are kind of this like cool pinky purple brown, right? So I think we're gonna kind of stay over in this territory here. Start with this kind of mauvey color. This is a BK 107 I have this on. I think that they are doing some Black Friday, early Black Friday sales. That is such a perfect choice with this eye look. Ooh, yes. Oh my God. Yeah, if anything was going to work with that slightly compromised texture on my cheeks, it would be an Hourglass palette. So it's like when I'm doing my makeup on my own, it's like Pat McGrath or Hourglass, and of course Hourglass has been around, God, I don't know how long these palettes have been around. I was doing makeup on YouTube professionally when the Pat McGrath blushes came out, so I mean they're at least since 2018. These definitely like predate my channel by a lot. I'm technically like late to the Hourglass game in that sense, but like that's just, I mean, good grief, that's so freaking pretty. I do feel like we lost some bronzer, so I'll go in with the bronzer as well. And you know what? If you're like, well, Khaki, do I have to buy a palette or can I just buy like one shade? Honestly, I would never tell y'all this about pretty much anything else, but I think that the palette is like always the way to go with Hourglass, because when you pick one color, I mean, they're first of all, they're enormous. You can get minis of them, but I think that like the advantage of Hourglass is to be able to just smash and grab and like, you know, just, you know, because it's like, I do want to experiment with some colors and textures pretty much any time I'm doing my makeup. So it's like, you know, I still want to do a little bit of that. I still want to do a little bit of that. Get a little bit of going. And they build so slowly that like, you know, layering these things is just, it's not going to overwhelm your complexion. So it's just nice to have those options. I have never put on one Hourglass blush and gone, that's enough. You know what I mean? I always have the urge to continue building them. They're gorgeous. And it's like, I remember I went a long time without wanting to try them because I was like, they're all shimmery, they're all shimmery. That's the shimmer. It's a blur. It's a reflective thing. It's not a glitter. I mean, you can get glittery ones, but most of them are like the ambient light ones are just this like, you know, soft mineral sheen on the skin. So what's the most iconic setting powder you can think of? I'll give you 3 guesses. Again, I was like a little late to the game on this, but this is the original Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. This was really popularized as a baking powder. If you're unfamiliar with baking, this is when we dipped a whole sponge in there and we like set our under eyes like a drag queen. I'm not saying you're a drag queen if you do that, although there's nothing wrong with being a drag queen. I'm saying that like it's a little bit of a, I think, unless you have like very oily skin and you're under very specific conditions, it's just a little much for every day. It's just kind of a stiff feeling, but it was how we did our makeup for a long time. I'm not really sure if that's what was intended from this formula, but it works really beautifully as just a regular setting powder. Look at that. Have other things come out like this since then? Absolutely, but I don't feel like this is one of those formulas that like then got surpassed. It still very much serves a purpose in and of itself. It's a little mattifying for me. This is a product, a formula that is probably more flexible to different skin types than most of the powders that you see me use on my channel. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm using things that are very specifically for dry skin, and this I feel like works okay on dry skin, but it could get a little heavy. As soon as I put it on, I really have the urge to like hit it with some setting mist because it's like I really want to like melt it down. It's just more powdery and made up looking than I'm used to wearing, and that's why I don't really wear it that much. And I kind of prefer a pressed powder. I feel like the, you know, loose powders are just so, they're just messy. Now I do have some blemishes showing through, and I thought it was a good opportunity to talk about a cult classic here, which is the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. I have it in Affogato and Vanilla, and I think that Vanilla is more my shade. And I'm gonna take this on like a little brush and see about doing some spot concealing, some pinpoint concealing here. So this is an old Illamasqua brush. I'm not sure I've ever even used it. We're about to find out. It might have eyeshadow on it, who knows? But like, you know, I think that this is the main argument to be made for this product, is that it is so darn high coverage. But it's not something that I necessarily reach for that often. I don't find it to be like the most elegant product in the world. I feel like it reminds me a little bit of like the old MAC concealers in the sense that like, yeah, they'll cover, but like at what cost? You know, they kind of crust up on top of things for me because my skin is so dry. But, you know, do they cover? Yes, abso-freaking-lutely. I think I still probably would prefer the MAC one. Do they still even make that? Like I said, there are so many versions of this video to be made, like so many ahead of us. So in terms of what I use for this purpose, I use the Lisa Eldridge Pinpoint Concealer Pencil. I think that it is just an unbelievable product. I think she did a fantastic job with it. And you end up with less product on the skin. It's faster, it's less noticeable, it stays put better. The colors are better. The fact that I have 2 shades in this and this is still like not quite right on me. I still feel like I end up with little kind of like white polka dots on my face. I think that this is a product that in its time was so excellent. And I still think that if you use this currently and it's still your favorite thing, obviously there is a customer for this. I'm just not sure I'm the customer for it. It's kind of a little too much of like attempting to be a crowd pleaser for a lot of different skin types for someone as dry skinned as I am to really enjoy it, because like over the course of the day it's going to like crust up and cake up on like anything that I'm trying to cover. That's just how this performs on me. I'm going to do my eyeliner and my mascara and my brows. I don't have cult products for that. I really only keep like one product like that open at a time at any given time. And so, you know, I'm not gonna like dirty one mascara just to like test it one time. I'll be back and we are going to talk extensively about lips. I guess you could argue that the Thrive Cosmetics Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara is a cult favorite, so I'll always love it. Let's talk about lips here. I have a couple of lip liners and a couple of lip products. The lip liners I want to talk about, these are things that like I was influenced to buy because I knew that they were such cult products, right? One is MAC Oak. This is one of those things, MAC especially, where when I start talking about like certain shades, people are like, oh, well, that used to be because of so-and-so, and then they discontinued it, and then they brought it back because of so-and-so else, and blah, blah. I need like a history lesson in every shade of MAC, you know? I want to know. I'm not annoyed by people like informing me of this stuff. It's just like, aside from word of mouth, there's like very little place to like consolidate this knowledge. So anyway, we have here Oak, which is I consider that to be kind of a warm, rosy brown. It's quite warm though. So, I mean, I can wear it, but like it's gonna go kind of orange on like people who things tend to go orange on. It's definitely at risk of that. And then I have here Endless Cacao from Makeup Forever. This was one where like I went over to the Makeup Forever Bay at Sephora and I started playing with these pencils because I was like, those are some of the most subtle, grungy, gorgeous colors I've ever seen. Is this my favorite formula in the world? Not really, because I don't think that it's necessarily just a lip liner. I think it could be used as an eyeliner. There's like a reason they're called like, you know, Wherever Walnut and things like that. It's like, I'm pretty sure that this is supposed to be, yeah, it's just an artist color pencil. Whereas the MAC, this is considered a lip pencil. So let's decide on the combo we want to do here, because I have two lip products, like I said, and it couldn't get more classic than this. I have two formats of the same color, and that is Clinique Black Honey, something that I don't think have ever seen on my channel before. Clinique offered me some gifting and I was like, let's go. Let's go, Clinique Black Honey. I haven't worn this in, God, I think the last time I wore this was at a friend's wedding, like 13 years ago or something, and I don't really remember how I felt about it. Yeah, it's just kind of this browny, plummy color, right? It's a little stainy. It's supposed to be like a universal kind of color that's supposed to enhance the lips, and it was one of, I think, the first things that of my generation, maybe a little older, that was like marketed that way, where it was like, this is your lips but better. This is going to be an enhancing color because it's sheer in a world of full coverage lipsticks, X, Y, and Z. You know, it's supposed to be effortless. And there is no such thing as a universal color of anything. However, you know, at least between the two formulas, they are the same. So there is, like I said, there's the Almost lipstick, and then we have the Clinique Pop Lip and Cheek Oil. I think that we can do that with Endless Cacao. Let's find out. But I think that this is gonna work because it's so nice and cool tone. So this is the Makeup Forever. It's a very blendable formula. Kind of reminds me of, I shouldn't say it reminds me of because it's the other way around. The Victoria Beckham kind of reminds me of these. I kind of feel like she had these a little bit in mind, or like at least she's a fan of this formula when she formulated hers, you know? It's not quite as purple as something like Gone Greige, but it is quite desaturated. It does have a lot of gray in it, but it will blend away. I think it is kind of the original, like, very blendable lip liner formula. All right, we're not really playing the game if I don't just go in with the lipstick, so let's do it. Now, bear in mind, everything turns quite pink on me. It's just the nature of my skin tone. This doesn't have a fragrance. It smells very cosmetic. It smells like a Clinique lipstick. I think that's really pretty. I think that's really pretty. It's a little pink for my taste, you know, but I do think that it's really pretty. I feel like when I wore this when I was younger, I feel like it made me look older. You know what I mean? But I think I felt that way about all like colorful lipsticks, and now I'm like, I am older. That's okay with me. The formula is really comfortable. It's really pretty. I do almost wonder if I want to use some of the cheek oil now. Let's see. I'm gonna apply it with a 112 from BK just because it tends to be a good way to keep products like this from picking other things up. Putting a little in my eye look too, because I feel like that lip immediately wants everyone to join it over here in Purple Berryville. Science. I'll be honest, y'all, I was ready to really debunk the whole black honey thing, but like I think it's really intended for like my complexion and my age group and up, you know what I mean? Like again, it made me feel like higher contrast when I was younger, and it made me feel older in that sense. But like I think that, you know, anybody that wants a little more contrast is going to love this, whatever age you are. And for the people who are like, oh, I look like I've been digging around in my mom's purse when I wear lipstick kind of thing, it's like, give it a few years, you know? I gave it a few years and now I just look like I've been digging around in my own purse because I'm a mom. Last step here doesn't really get any more classic than Urban Decay All Nighter, which I know is a faux pas at this point because they broke their contract with Scandinavia. And so everybody hates them now. Yeah, I mean, this is not my favorite setting mist to begin with. So I mean, it's like not necessarily like, oh, I'm gonna tell you to go out and buy it. I would say that if you've got the extra few bucks and you really wanna support Scandinavia, I think still makes the formula, the original formula, and it's got like a tingle to it, a little bit of like a cooling sensation. That's the thing that's not in the reformulated all-nighter. And I would say, you know, if you're going to purchase it, go ahead and purchase it from Scandinavia. Make sure that they get your business. But it does definitely leave this like, you know, dewy aura on the skin, which is lovely. It is. And it does melt the Laura Mercier powder like I was talking about. I think it's really nice, especially because my lips aren't too glossy. So final thoughts on these products and also just on this thought experiment in general is just that, like, really when it comes to a cult classic product, a cult favorite, it's never that it's gonna be like bad. It's just about whether, depending how long it's been around, whether it has stood the test of time. And I think that talking about something as a cult favorite versus something being viral is like the difference between reviewing your empties, right? Where you have all this history with it. I have so much data to go off of, versus like a new product review or something like that where you're just like, I tried it, how do I feel about it kind of thing. Viral makeup is something that is so engineered at this point, and people can talk about how their product went viral so much because we can make things go viral by just pumping money into them and things like that, that like virality, we have learned the easy way and the hard way, does not denote a quality product or a product that's going to stand the test of time. Now, have some classic cult favorite products gone viral again in recent years through TikTok and things like that? Absolutely. Black Honey did that, the Charlotte Tilbury ones did that, a bunch of stuff has done that, and I'm glad, you know what I mean? I'm always glad to see those things, and I just want to kind of like get my head around them on my own. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. I love the way that it turned out, actually. Like, this is like fun little adventure for me, especially because I am the kind of person who doesn't want to like what the mainstream likes. It's just how I'm built. And so this is a really great thought exercise for me to be like, no, Khaki, things are popular for a reason. And that is a really gorgeous face of makeup that was very easy to put on for the most part. So I hope that y'all liked this, and I really hope that you have some more recommendations for me, that the video kind of jogged your mind and you were just like, ah, you know, for all of these classic products, why didn't you mention this one? Please leave those in the comments and we will do another one of this video. We can make it a whole series because this was really fun for me. I like cracking open my brain and talking about products that aren't new. So if you did like it, please give the video a thumbs up, hype the video if you are on mobile. And before you leave, make sure you check out Ana Luisa using the link down below in my description. I highly recommend all their stuff for Black Friday and for gifting. Subscribe if you haven't already. I will put a video up here that I think you'll enjoy if you liked this one. Thank y'all so much for being here. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.